So I know I know I talked about posting a video, each day to be consistent with this channel, at least for now. But uh, I just didn't feel like posting on here for a little bit. But I still need to think about it. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that, you know, perhaps it's time to, say goodbye to Texas. I feel like I belong home, and my home is in California. But ultimately, that's not where I want to live, but it might be a stepping stone. So I'm currently mulling my options. Do I go live with my family in California for a bit, live with them, save up, and then move, to where I want to go, which is, the Oregon coast or Washington coast. That's something that's been on my mind, but just the more I think about it, the more I realize there's really nothing left out here in Texas for me. Majority of my friends are off, doing their own thing, living their life. They're busy. One of my friends lives 3 hours away from me, and he works in the medical industry, so I rarely get to see him. I get to see him maybe once every year, maybe a couple years. My other friend lives an hour away, and he's a father, a husband, and he works full time, so he's busy, and I get that. And then all my other friends are working very demanding jobs, and I'm very lucky to work a job where I don't have a lot of demand, but overall I'm just I'm not happy here. And I think it's just time to acknowledge that, as scary as it might seem to leave, a place of comfort, maybe it's just time, And I think maybe that's also the reason why I was very hesitant about buying a house or a condo with my ex, is because I didn't want to be stuck here. I didn't want to be bogged down here. There were considerations when it came to finances, of course, because if we bought a place, that would just wipe out our savings. So I just was not comfortable with that at the time. But yeah, just the more I think about it, the more I feel like a piece of my soul, part of my heart actually lies, along the West Coast with my family. And another piece of me probably now lies along the Oregon or Washington coast. Now, granted, I would have to find work over there before I even tried to move. So I think over the weekend I'm going to look into jobs either in close to where my grandmother lives in California, or close to where I want to live in Oregon, and see which bites I get first. I'd have to look up the cost of living too, but I got some research to do. I have some options to weigh. This isn't gonna be something that's immediate. It'll probably take maybe a year or two, but I want to get the process started now, because I hate being in this house. I hate being reminded that our family that moved out here, half of whom are gone, and it's like job prospects here suck. I was lucky to get the job that I have now, but that luck can only last for so long, I suppose. And I guess it just depends. If I gain more experience at this job, maybe I can look for a tech job in California and stay with my family for a bit, and save up as much as I can, and then just go shove off to Oregon or Washington. Sure, it'll be lonely, and that's the part that I'm also weighing, is that I'll be alone. I won't have any friends or family up there, but the trade-off that I'm thinking of is I'll be just surrounded by the beauty of nature, be surrounded by coastline, forests. Those are the things that I miss. I guess those are the things that I really want. I hate being in a city. I hate not having, the scenery that, I feel like we as human beings should have. We need to be in nature. We need to be a part of nature. And being a part of a city just doesn't feel at all natural. So, and also I hate the weather here. The weather here sucks. It's been getting worse, since we moved here 17 years ago. So, that, and also, the whole political situation going on here in Texas is really making me reconsider if I even just want to be here for a year. Maybe try to rush it, but, I got to think things through first. But yeah, those are, that's something that's been on my mind, because I just don't see myself living here, at least not for very long. So, and I feel like either way, this is a chance that I should try and take. Maybe it'll fail, maybe it'll work, I don't know. But I think I need a change in scenery. I think I need to be back with family, be back with, people I'm comfortable and familiar with, at least for a while, before I even try to, make this trek to where I want to live ultimately. But yeah, right now I need to do research before I actually come to a decision. So, and I do have multiple skill sets. So, I have a physics degree, I have an astronomy degree, so I can do quantitative analysis, I can do quantitative tasks, that's no problem. I can even do qualitative tasks. I can do manual labor because, I'm physically strong, I'm physically fit. So I don't know. I'll have to look at what jobs are available in the areas that I want to live in and go from there. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video just to talk about it, on the off chance anyone watches this and, has some advice, that'd be great. But, I'm going to look at jobs in those areas that I want to live in. I'm going to look at the cost of living. I'm going to, consider my options when I initially go there. Do I want to immediately rent a place, or do I just want to live in my car for a bit before I find a roommate, or just before I save up enough money to even consider renting or maybe even owning a place? I don't know. It'd be nice to own a place, but, that's a pipe dream. So, but anyway, just thought I would talk about that. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.